the bustling corridors of Nashville's courthouse, a desperate plea echoed through the chambers. Renowned surgeon Lance Johansen stood before the judge, his voice trembling yet resolute. He pleaded for the safety of his daughter, Lance Johansen, fearing the imminent danger posed by her boyfriend, Bricen Rivers. "If you let him out of jail, he will kill her," Lance warned, his prophetic words lingering in the air like a dark omen. Bricen Rivers, a 23-year-old man with a history of violence, had been arrested for holding his girlfriend captive and brutally assaulting her during their vacation in Nashville. This wasn't the first time Rivers had harmed Lauren. It was a vicious cycle of abuse that had plagued their relationship, with each incident more horrifying than the last. Despite numerous attempts to protect her, Rivers always managed to worm his way back into her life, bringing chaos and pain. Lance Johansen had traveled from Biloxi, Mississippi to Nashville, hoping to ensure Rivers remained behind bars. For a brief moment, his efforts seemed successful. Rivers was detained, his bail set at a substantial $250,000. However, 7 months later, Rivers' lawyer convinced Judge Cheryl Blackburn to reduce the bail to $150,000, allowing Rivers to walk free. Upon his release, Rivers was supposed to report to a company for a GPS ankle monitor, a measure meant to ensure he wouldn't flee. But instead, Rivers vanished, disappearing into the ether without a trace. The Johansen family was left in the dark, unaware of the ticking time bomb that had been set loose. Lance learned of Rivers' release through a voicemail from the Davidson County District Attorney's office. The message, chilling in its detachment, informed him that Rivers had not reported to the GPS monitoring company and had vanished.
This is Bailey calling from the District Attorney's office here in Nashville. Rivers was released from custody. He was supposed to report straight to a GPS company and be put on a GPS monitor, and he was not to leave Davidson County. But as soon as he was released, he did not report to that GPS monitoring company, and he has not been heard from, so I want to make sure that Lauren is safe.
Panic set in as Lance tried to contact Lauren, but his calls went unanswered, and the texts he received seemed off, not written in her usual manner. By 4 p.m. the next day, his daughter's Life 360 tracker was turned off, a silent scream in the digital void. Back in Biloxi, Lauren's younger sister discovered their home in disarray. The security camera was smashed, the door ajar, and the young woman was nowhere to be found. Lance immediately filed a missing persons report with the Hattiesburg police, but hours ticked by with little progress. Desperation mounting, Lance insisted the police track Lauren's car, which was eventually located at Wolf River Cemetery in Gulfport, Mississippi. When the police arrived at the cemetery, they found Rivers in Lauren's car. He fled into the woods, leading law enforcement on an hours-long manhunt. Lance, arriving at the scene, knew in his heart that his daughter was gone. The confirmation was devastating. Lauren's body lay in the back seat, wrapped in sheets and rubbish bags, her once vibrant life snuffed out in a brutal act of violence. Lance helped the coroner lift Lauren's mutilated body from the car. The sight was horrifying. Her face and head were so severely beaten that she had lost her vision before succumbing to her injuries. The brutality of the attack left Lance in shock and grief. Rivers, claiming on social media to be a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, was finally captured after undercover officers tricked him into believing he was communicating with a friend. A 9-hour manhunt involving drones, helicopters, and dogs came to an end as Rivers was arrested and booked into the Harrison County Jail on a $1 million bond, charged with Lauren's murder. Lance Johansen's heartbreak was compounded by his anger at a system that had failed his daughter.
In the courtroom in Nashville and told the judge they let him out, he was going to come kill her. This was probably the 5th time or 6th time in that time period where they get in a fight and he'd beat her and everything else. And they let her out and they didn't tell us and they didn't put the ankle monitor on her. They just let him walk out of jail.
The criminal justice system in Nashville failed my daughter and our family, he said. Lauren, a bright and ambitious young woman studying to become a nurse at the University of Southern Mississippi, had her future cruelly stolen. "The world shouldn't work this way," Lance lamented. "She was really beautiful, super smart. She had dreams and hopes that were larger than life. Everything she did, everything she touched turned to gold." The Johansen family now faced the harrowing task of laying Lauren to rest and seeking justice for her untimely death. Her body was set to undergo an autopsy, a final step in the grim process of uncovering the full extent of the horrors she endured. In the wake of this tragedy, Lance's plea for change resonated deeply. His daughter's life was a testament to resilience and brilliance, snuffed out by a system that failed to protect her. As he fought for justice, Lance hoped that Lauren's story would serve as a catalyst for reform, ensuring that no other family would have to endure the same heartbreak and loss. The tale of Lauren Johansen is a stark reminder of the perils of domestic violence and the importance of a justice system that prioritizes the safety and well-being of victims. It's a call to action, a plea for a world where justice is swift and protective measures are unwavering. In her memory, the fight for a better, safer future continues. The chilling voicemail from the Davidson County District Attorney's Office marked the beginning of a nightmare for the Johansen family. This is Bailey calling from the District Attorney's Office in Nashville. Bricen Rivers was released from custody. The message began. The dread in Lance's heart grew as the message continued, informing him that Rivers was supposed to report to a GPS monitoring company and was not to leave Davidson County. But Rivers, true to his dangerous nature, had immediately disappeared upon release. Lance's frantic calls to Lauren went unanswered, and the text he received from her number seemed suspiciously unlike her usual messages. His concern escalated to sheer terror when Lauren's Life 360 tracker went offline. In a panic, Lance reached out to Lauren's younger sister, who shared the disturbing discovery of their home in disarray. The smashed security camera and the open door painted a grim picture. As Lance filed a missing persons report with the local police, the lack of immediate action left him frustrated and helpless. The hours ticked by painfully slowly until he managed to convince the police to track Lauren's car. The car's signal led them to Wolf River Cemetery, where the situation took a darker turn. Upon arrival, the police found Rivers inside Lauren's car. Rivers fled into the surrounding woods, sparking an intense manhunt that would last for hours. Lance's arrival at the cemetery confirmed his worst fears. Lauren's lifeless body, brutally beaten and mutilated, lay in the back seat. The extent of her injuries was horrifying. Her face and head were so severely damaged that she had lost her vision before her death. As Rivers was finally captured after being lured out by undercover officers, the reality of Lauren's tragic end began to sink in. Lance's grief was compounded by a sense of betrayal by the justice system that had failed to protect his daughter. The capture of Rivers marked the end of the chase, but the beginning of a long road to justice for the Johansen family. Lauren Johansen's story is a harrowing reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and the systemic failures that can have fatal consequences. Lance Johansen's impassioned plea to the judge was not heeded, leading to a tragedy that could have been prevented. As the Johansen family grieves the loss of a beloved daughter and sister, their fight for justice continues, serving as a call to action for systemic change and the protection of those at risk of domestic violence. Lauren Johansen's life, filled with promise and potential, was cruelly cut short. As her family navigates their grief, they hope that sharing Lauren's story will spur necessary reforms in the justice system, ensuring that no other family has to endure the same heartbreak. The memory of Lauren's vibrant spirit will forever fuel their quest for justice and change.